All right. Okay, Matthias. So we have with us Matthias Develtere here. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we start the conversation? Give us a sense of what you do today. So you're a 3D artist at MachineGames. What does it mean to be a 3D artist?
Well, at MachineGames, it means basically a wide variation of things. The nice
Mhm.
thing about MachineGames is that you get to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
One day you could be doing a vehicle, second day you could be doing a robot. It's basically if you want to do something, you just ask for it, and if you're lucky, you get to do it. So you get a lot of freedom
Yeah.
and chance to experiment a bit. So yeah.
That's great. So
Um,
what did you do before you were at MachineGames?
Nothing. I actually it's my first job. So I
Sweet.
started I think when I was I think 21, 21, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's the age. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
So
then we're now going to know how old you are because the next question is, how long have you been at MachineGames?
4 years. 4 years now.
Awesome.
So I'm 25, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Before
talk to
that
me.
I went to yeah, sorry.
No, well, I was going to ask, what did you do education-wise before this? Like, what were the steps to get you in?
Yeah, well, I went when I was 18 years old. I went to game school
Hmm.
in Belgium.
Yeah.
It was not really specifically based on becoming a 3D artist, but it was more on becoming a technical artist.
Hmm.
So basically learning everything a bit, which was not really my thing. So after 2 years, I just quit the school and I locked myself up in my room and I made a portfolio on my own for like 8 months.
Wow.
And after that, I just applied at different companies and I got into machine games. So I went to the whole school thing, but it wasn't just working for me. I'm not the I knew what I wanted to do, so I didn't want to do math. I didn't want to do pre-production or post-production or whatever. I really wanted to do 2D, and that's what I focused on my own. So
Sweet.
um,
Do you have some of your portfolio still on your ArtStation?
yeah, I think my art station, my favorite things that I actually made during that 1 year where I was like, I'm gonna lock myself up in my room and I'm gonna make my own portfolio. Um, can you guys see this?
Hmm.
Okay, so what I did for myself was every month I would give myself a challenge. So I would be like, every month I wanted to make one portfolio piece. And back in those days, I don't know if it's still active that much, but Polycount was quite big because our station was not around the corner at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So I would try to get into the Polycount recap every month. So every month I would try to make a vehicle. So this was the first one, and then after that I made this one. The month after that one, I made this one. Um, and all of them got into the Polycount recap, which kind of gave me a lot of momentum, I think,
Yeah.
and also visibility in the industry.
Sure.
And it kept me going as well because I was like, okay, got in, I got in this one. I need to get in the next one. So yeah, I think this was the last one. So basically, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 vehicles, and that was my portfolio. And I also made one environment, which was this one. Basically, just to show that next to high polys, I could also make low polys, high polys, bake them, texturing, basically the whole pipeline, and try to make something look presentable. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little presentable. It's a little.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you start basically you did one model every single month. Talk to me though
Yeah.
about this because if I'm looking at the work, the early stuff, and you guys can head over to ArtStation if you're listening to just the audio only version. But if I'm looking at this, this is very high resolution. So talk to me about your construction approach to this, because this is one of the things I think people have they get confused about in the beginning is they focus on low res and I want to get it in the game and all of this stuff. Number one, were you at all focused on that, or were you just focused on making cool models?
It's a combination, basically. The first couple of months, I didn't make any high polys. What I did on my own was I just learned the basics, how to
Hmm.
make a decent high poly, make a decent low poly, and bake it.
Hmm.
And that was not done with these things, but I don't have them on my station. But basically, it was stuff like let's take some new stuff. It was basically things like this. I would basically shit these things out like every day, like 10 props, just to keep practicing and keep the momentum going. So it was just little props every day for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But I never showed that to, I never put that online. Um, so afterwards, I was like, I know I can do the whole process. So I just focused on hyperlinks, and maybe that was not a good thing, but it got me the job that I wanted to, because I knew MachineGames was like, well, MachineGames is quite mental if it comes to making insanely detailed models. So I focused on making hyperlinks. But then, of course, like I said, I made this one just to show that I could do the whole low poly, high poly process. But if it came to details, yeah, I just picked some vehicles that I knew that was super detailed, and I tried to add some storytelling to them. So I did not want to go for like just your standard beetle car. I just want to do something special, like, oh, let's put some bags on it or make it look like a racing car or something. Just to show that you could take a really boring vehicle and make it something interesting and add some story elements to it. Same with this. Like I was like, okay, let's not make a tank. Let's not only make a tank, but also put a lot of props on it and show you that you can make variation. Like, okay, the tank is hard surface, but you could do some organic stuff as well on it. So
right, yeah, throw in some cloth and okay,
yeah,
got
exactly.
it. Okay, but now how do you manage all these separate parts and pieces? Do you kit bash them together? What's your mindset when you're doing this? Are you trying to do everything the right way? Or are you trying to, you know?
First of all, I must say, like, all these props on it were actually the props that I practiced on making low poly and high poly. So I made some jerry cans, baked them, and I was like, oh, I got this jerry cans laying around. Let's use them and just put them on the model. Same with like, there's a lot of trash in there. I just added to the model. But normally I just start searching for a vehicle, and I sit down and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna make this look interesting? So I was like, oh, let's take this one. Let's make an escape car. So I'm like, okay, what would they take with them? So they would take their fridge with them or their microwave. So I made a microwave, and that's it. But of course, the car would come first, and then I would just start adding storytelling elements to it. So yeah,
great.
And it's basically a lot of just generic props, and then just be like, okay, how can I fit this into making this a storytelling vehicle, basically.
Yeah. Well, the modeling is just really amazing. So what I'm trying to understand is, what is your approach for modeling, and what advice do you have for people who are beginning, and is there any common mistakes that people make where they overthink something or they oversimplify something? What advice do you have for somebody who's starting out and they want, basically your life?
Yeah, to get to that level. What I would say is I would always start with realistic stuff. So don't try to go sci-fi or design your own stuff from the beginning. First, show off that you can take a picture and turn that picture into a one-to-one reference, one-to-one model. But at the same time, I would say don't get too focused on the small details, which is a problem I sometimes have. Like, you would spend a lot of time making a small detail and then you zoom out and you don't see it. It's like, well, that's 1 hour of wasting time. But I would just suggest make something from real life and show that you know how measurements work, or you know how to eyeball stuff, basically that stuff.
Do you eyeball or do you have a measurement process?
At the beginning, I did a lot of blueprints.
Okay.
But then I was like, at some point I was like, when I'm going to work in the industry and I'm going to make sci-fi stuff for Wolfenstein, for example, I'm not going to get blueprints. I got one blueprint during the whole process of Wolfenstein, which was for one of the robots, but all the other stuff was just, oh, you got perspective drawing, make it work. So after blueprints, I just started just to eyeball stuff. Yeah, I'm not a guy to actually make block arts because I know I'm not going to stick to block arts. It's a terrible thing. I'm pretty sure you should not tell the students don't make block arts, because I mean, you make them for a reason. So animation department knows the measurements, so they can start experimenting with the rig and skinning and stuff.
Yeah.
But personally, for me, it doesn't work. And luckily, when it comes to the stuff I have to make, most of it doesn't have to be regular skins. So I don't have to make a block art. I can just say, wait a couple of weeks and you're going to get the final model. Just put a cube in the map for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your strategy then? You just work on the pieces and then build it from the pieces?
Yeah. Let me show you. That's why I had this one open. Let me show you the one I'm going to use as an example now.
All right.
There we go. This one was a big one to do. So
this is the troop transport in Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, exactly. It was a big, massive piece. It was like 8 meters high and 6 meters tall. Wide, sorry. So yeah, for that one, I made a block art, which was quite hilarious. I can show you this one. quickly. That was the blockout I did because I really didn't want to spend a lot of time on it.
Okay, super simple, but
So,
with bevels.
yeah, super simple. Sorry?
I said, but with bevels, you know, you got some.
Yeah, exactly. Like some nice highlights. No, but that was a block I did. Just so we knew that how big is it? Does it fit in the street? But that was it. There was nothing more than can the player climb on it? Can he crawl underneath it? But that was it. So after that, I never looked at it again. I was like, you guys got your blocker. I'm gonna not follow it now. I'm just gonna try to make it as close as possible to that blocker. So what I do most of the time is I just make details first. It's a really strange process, but I don't make the big shapes first. I make a lot of small things. What it does for me is I don't, like you see, they're not even up to scale. They just, I see a piece in the concept. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. I'm gonna make this. Why I'm doing this is because for me it gives me a push in the back to be like, okay, you got this done. Next, on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's basically once you get the details done, it's just the big shapes. You basically have to connect them up with each other. So that's why I'm doing this, because I know, like, when I have these done, I can start placing them where I think they should be, and I'm like, okay, the space between these two pieces is maybe not long enough. Let's move them out a bit. And when I know they're all in the correct position, then I start connecting up with the big shapes, basically. So I can, yeah, it's a really stage process, because you have to imagine that if your lead comes over and he's like, can you show me the troop test? But you're like, yeah, this is it. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? You know?
I know, right? That's the next
like,
question.
Yeah, it's like, trust me, it's gonna work, but give me time. So yeah, it's saving just a minute. So yeah, so what happens is, there we go. Let's open this one. So yeah, then I just start doing the big shapes, which is the IDs. So if I just, oh, it's attached, damn it. But yeah, it's basically just these shapes that just got added at the end. How the model looks like is just like this then. Oh, that's wrong, there we go. So I just start placing things where I think they should be, and then I start connecting them up with the big shapes. It is a really strange process, even when I'm talking about it now, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, but that's how I do it. It's for me, it's just easy to make the details and be like, okay, all the hard stuff is done. Now I just make the big shape and it's there. So
and so what's the concept look like? Like, how are you knowing how to place these? What's the concept look like at this stage?
You mean the concept art? Or
yeah.
You mean, I think that one is actually got posted. Let's see. I saw it somewhere, damn it. There we go. Yeah, this was the concept. So
wow, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see the big shapes, the small details, sorry, and I just pick those out and I just make them, and then that's it. It's really strange, I know, but that's how I work.
Yeah.
It's just completely different from what I did before. When I make a car, I do the big shapes, but if it comes to a massive piece like this, I'm like, oh no, I need to do the small things. I need a push in the back so I can comfort myself, like, okay, this is done. On to the next one.
That's great, because it can be overwhelming, I think, when people start, they look at this and they're like, oh my God. So they block it out.
Exactly.
And then they're like done with the first 3 feet of it and they're like, oh,
yeah. And then you start wondering, like, is this the correct size? Is this, and you could keep changing stuff all the time while doing the details. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this fuse box. Fuse box done. I know this is the correct size. Let's do a hatch. You know, a hatch is a circle. You do the hatch. You place the hatch in the correct position. That way you start seeing the big shape, and that's how you can relate the details to each other. Like, okay, the space between is not big enough. Well, that means I need to move this piece. Yeah, it's like you said, doing the big shapes, you could keep working on it for hours and tweaking it, and then it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, well, that is awesome. And it's interesting because this concept is great, but it's actually, you know, still very implied in some cases, like some of those hatches lines.
It's very funny because the concept of the back was even a sketch, which I love because you can get more freedom to do that. What happens at MachineGames is you get a sketch for the front, but you don't get one for the back. Like what I'm saying, you get one for the front, which is fully painted like this one, but the back is just sketch. So it's like, just do the back in the same style. That's how it works, which is a lot of fun because yeah, like I said, the amount of freedom you get in MachineGames is insane. You just get a lot of time to experiment. Yeah.
Got it. So if we're looking at your models, like when you're doing the details, are you thinking from a high polygon approach, a low polygon approach, a medium polygon approach? Like how do you start structuring these? Like,
I never think about actually, is it going to be performance heavy if it comes to the high poly? The only thing I think about is this going to be easy to make the low poly out of? So when you see these pieces, they look detailed, but I can see boxes in them, so it's easy for me to bake them. That's the main thing I think about. I need to be able to bake this down really easy. I can spend a week on the high poly, but then the low poly for this beast was actually done in 2 days, which is insane when you think about it, because it's like, that's I think how you should make something. If you can make a nice high poly, but it has to be really easy to make a low poly out. It's for games, so it's not about the nice picture. It's about the thing that gets into the game.
yeah.
So I can see this. So everything has to be baked down to, well, I'm not going to say to a box, but to an easy shape. So yeah, like this is just, everything looks flat if you see it like this. But when you start zooming in, there's a lot of detail. So yeah, but if it comes to high poly, I really don't think about performance. That's why I do everything but like clean topology and stuff. It is super expensive. I think you saw the loading time. It's massive, but yeah.
And do you model for smooth, or do you model it so that it smooths into the proper shape, or do you try to put all the geometry in there by hand?
I do it all by hand. I like to I take my time for stuff basically. I don't mind to clean up my topology and just move stuff again. And I'm a guy that likes to work in a non-destructive way. So I would that's why I like Max. Just add a lot of modifiers and just keep tweaking stuff and make an instance and work on the instance and rotate that. And I don't know. If it comes to a massive piece like this, I don't like to take any chances. I like to play it safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use booleans or anything like that, or just try to push things together, or try to figure out the topology?
I don't actually use booleans. The only time I use booleans is for low poly. It's more of a principle for me. I know booleans are pretty insane. Like same with Modo when you get the edge shader. It's so easy to just shove things into each other and bake it.
Yeah.
But I have some sense of pride that I want to make it look nice. Not nice, but I want to be able to show the wireframe and be like, yeah, this is all done by hand. It took a lot of time. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
Not a worry.
Yeah, so everything is done by hand, and it takes a lot of time, but
so
it comes with a sense of pride.
So I get that you've got all the pieces, and I love the strategy because I know from experience trying to do these kinds of things can be incredibly overwhelming. But how do you start to build it all together? How do you? So I'm looking here at all these things assembled. How do you start to bridge these pieces? Do you go in and do you go back to your block in, or do you just start to what do you do?
What happened over here was I started at the bottom. I don't think if you can see my mouse.
Yeah, I see your mouse.
Yeah. So I just started with this box shape. So I was like, okay, this is box, and I just started working my way down. Yeah. And what I did was I was quite funny with this one. I just saw 4 levels. I'm like, okay, this is 1 level, 2 levels, 3 levels, 4 levels. So I just started working my way up.
Okay.
First thing I did was actually the suspension. I don't have that one, I think, but well, I have the image, of course. But let's see. This one, I was like, oh, this could be a module for the vehicle. So that's the first thing I did. And by placing those at the bottom, I knew, okay, this is the length of it. So I'm like, okay. That was a nice way of actually checking then, okay, is this actually the length I have? And then I just started working my way up. But I'm not a guy to start working all over the place. Like I said, I start at the bottom and I work my way up. And I cross my fingers that at the end, when I get to the top level, everything matches up. Yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty intense. Okay, so for you, right now when you're dealing with this, you like to start with the parts. When you were working with the pieces, or with the Polycount things early on developing your portfolio, you just kind of built these things up, from a base and a block in and kind of refined it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That was done like the traditional way that like every student, I guess, does block art, making the nice high poly. Yeah, adding props at the end.
Okay, got it. So what is it about the work that you did early on? What did MachineGames ever tell you like what they really liked about their model? What were the elements that really helped you get that job? And what I'm looking for here is I have this notion that there are triggers that when people look at them, there's something that says professional, not professional.
Yeah, for me, the only thing I really remember from my interview that they said was that they were searching for a vehicle artist at that point. So my portfolio was based on vehicles, so that was a big win, and on hard surface stuff. So, but what they were saying that won them over was the fact that I made. Oh, this is not a good example, but I made both exterior and interior, which for them apparently I don't know why, but for them it meant you had some sort of certain skill that you could match them up with each other.
Okay.
That's and the amount of detail basically. Yeah, so that's what I would always I would suggest to students as well. If you make a vehicle, go all the way. Make the outside, make the inside. For example, for a car, the inside is made out of fabrics most of the time, or kind of organic. So that way you can actually show off some of the sculpting skills you have as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then over here, what I did as well is I just made some iterations just to show that if you have a vehicle in the game, just by adding different props on it, you could actually have something different. Yeah.
So tell me about what an average day looks like at MachineGames. You know, are you going in? Do you have meetings? Do you go in and just go right to your computer and go right to work? Are you working on projects that you've had ongoing for a while?
Most of the time, what we have in the morning is a stand-up with the producer. So what happens is that we work in certain pots. So it's basically a couple of environmental artists, a couple of 3D artists, combat scripter, level designer, and we just stand up and we just say what we're going to do for the day. And that way, we all are aware what we are doing on that certain map. So I would be like, I'm going to make this prop for this map. The level designer would be like, okay, could you make sure it's 1 meter long or something, Basically it's in a way so there's no miscommunication at the beginning of the day. And that's when the flex is like, okay, maybe don't do that prop. There's some more important stuff to do, or could you help me out with this? But normally it's just like it's a bit strange. Well, I don't know if it's strange, but it's a lot of like you get a lot of freedom, like I said. So it's like if I feel like we need another car, I can make another car for MachineGames. That's the nice thing. At the same time, it comes with like sometimes you think, oh, we need 10 more cars. Well, we don't need 10 more cars. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of freedom at MachineGames. So basically, you do what you want to do, what you think is good for the project. But at the same time, that's why we had the stand-up, so the whole room can talk about it. Like, okay, I don't think we need this. We need this instead. It's like, okay, let me do this for you guys then. That's how it works.
How do they hold you accountable for that, or themselves? Do they then like mark it down somewhere and then check in with you? How are you doing the project?
That's why we got a producer doing the stand-up, so it's all written down in hand software. Like, okay, this is gonna take me 2 days. Well, okay, you got 2 days. Well, it's not like after 2 days it has to be done, but there's some kind of follow-up on it. But again, if you feel the need to work longer, well, then you just work a bit longer to get it finished. But nobody's gonna be angry at you if you need an extra day to make it, of course. Yeah.
Got it. How long do let's start with the vehicle. So anybody can head over to your ArtStation and see like how long are these vehicles usually given? Are they a 4-week, a 2-week, 1 week kind of deal, or longer?
That's the nice thing. The producers themselves are not going to say like, oh, you got 2 weeks for this. They actually ask you for like, how long do you think it's going to take you? And that they just calculate some extra days in advance. So if something would happen or you fall sick or something.
Right.
But most of the time I would say, sorry, my computer is a bit lagging. But I would say the high polys for these cars were like, I think 2 days for the exterior and 1.5 days for the interior, and then maybe 2 days for the low poly. So I would say almost basically a full week to get a whole car done. 5 to 6 days to get the car done. And then maybe an extra day to set up the breakable so it's exploitable and they can use it in the game itself.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And are you working 6 days usually? 5 days? Does it change?
5 days. We got at MachineGames we got a policy of no weekend. We don't work in the weekends, so you're not allowed to come in during the weekends.
Really?
You actually have to ask for permission for that. Yeah, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, they don't mind if you take homework with you. You just have to ask for access to you have to ask for access to the website and upload and download your models. But yeah, 5 days a day. 5 days, 5 days a week. Sorry.
I've been over here grilling you on all the game stuff, and you've been awesome about answering that. But what else do you do outside of, work and games and all of this work? Do you have anything else that you do to kind of refresh and recharge?
Well, that was the problem last year. Last year, I worked a lot on Wolfenstein. I worked like 16 hours a day for a whole year, which kind of took a toll on me.
Yeah.
I would say like a small, I can come up with the word. How do you say it now? Damn it, I can't come up with the word. Well, I was basically, I was a bit down after
Burnout?
Yeah, burnout, that's it, damn it. Burnout. But I think it's gone now. So I just try to work out a bit more, go jogging, walking, that sort of stuff. But otherwise, I like to just do some personal work as well. I try to get myself into some different art style, not that much Wolfenstein related, but it's hard to get out of it. If you work on Wolfenstein for like 4 years now, it's hard to turn the switch and do something completely different. So it takes a lot of time to find my own style. So that's what I'm doing in the free time. Basically trying different things out. That's the nice thing. And at the office I use Modo. At home I use Max. So for me it helps to switch off and just do something a complete different work style or work method.
I like that because the program is so much of your environment. It's almost like you're in a different studio, probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes at the beginning you got it's strange because you get home and you want to use your shortcuts from the office. It's like, oh, this is different software.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's too. It's like you get home and it's the switch. It's like, oh, look, I'm at home, no office stuff. It's Max, just traditional stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way I relax. I just make more stuff, but then in a completely different way.
Now you said that you're working on your own style, your own vision, and all of that. So how do you? Because let me ask it this way. So, do you ever run into any kind of frustration and where you're just not getting what you want? And if you do, how do you? Yeah, right. How do you deal with that? Because as artists, that frustration can become very personal. It can become very deep. And you're dealing with it at work. Are you dealing with it at home? What is your strategy for dealing with that?
Most of the time, the nice thing is when I feel I'm blocked, like, okay, this is looking way too much like Wolfenstein, or this is just more of the same stuff over and over again, which I still feel like when I see my stuff now, I'm looking at it, it's like everything looks the same to me. So what I'm doing is I got some really good colleagues, and I would just ask them straight away, like, what is shit about this? And the nice thing is they don't hold back. They're like, oh, you use way too many bolts, or you always use the same fuse boxes or the same cables or whatever, or the same color scheme. So that's the nice thing, and I'm trying to get away from that. But for sure, there's a lot of frustrations that come with making stuff, especially if it comes to complicated stuff, because you have to deal with so many different people as well, animation department, concept artist. But at the same time, I think at the end, you're all going for the same end goal, make a really awesome game. So at the end, you just compromise with each other. So it's not like a big fight, but yeah. But if it comes to personal work, I just try to shut down my work from the office and basically not do anything. Like the moment I start thinking, oh, this is something I could see in Wolfenstein. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. This is not what I want to do. If that's what we do, well, I could be at the office and doing it for them, basically. Yeah.
Got it. So you manage the low poly of everything as well, lay out the UVs.
Yeah.
Do you put this in Substance? Do you do the texturing at all?
Yeah, I do the Substance thing. Well, the Substance thing, I mean the texturing, which is, I think it's the thing I'm suck at the most. I wouldn't even say suck at, but I don't put a lot of time in it. It's my biggest mistake. I put a lot of time in the high poly, and then the low poly gets a decent amount of time. Yeah. But then I want to rush the textures. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this, and it's a bad thing. It's something at this moment I can't show anything, but on the project I'm working on now, I'm really trying to balance that thing out. So basically I noticed that it's not the hyperlink that counts; it's the final game asset that counts. So, but the nice thing is that MachineGames, we got some really good texture artists like I Sanchez and Ben Wilson that they make some really good smart materials as well. And it's not like giving in a ticket, but you could just talk to them and be like, hey, could you make a smart material like work for the vehicle base paint or something? And they just do something and like, oh, does this work for you? I'm like, oh, okay, this works. I'm just going to tweak it a bit. So it's not like we don't have texture artists, but you are responsible for your own assets from A to Z, basically.
Okay.
And which is a nice thing, I think.
And to get it to a certain point, but does a texture artist come in then and add that extra bit at the end, or no?
No, that doesn't happen.
Oh, so what do the texture artists do?
We don't really have the texture artist position, but we got people that really love doing textures, and they just like, oh, let me make some smart materials for you, or some tiling materials that way.
Like the texture guy in the office. That's just the thing they like.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I would love to just hand off my low point and be like, you texture it, because I know it would be 10 times better. Because every time I'm like, fuck, I should have put so much more time in texturing. And that's something I would suggest to all your students. If you're gonna do an asset, go to full pipeline. Put as much time in the high poly as you put in the low poly as in the texturing. Well, I would even say put more time in the texturing, because that's the thing you're gonna see in game. Nobody gives a shit about the high poly. Yeah, that's. But I think that's the nice thing about MachineGames as well. You're responsible for your own asset. If you fuck up, or if you make a complicated high poly, well, you're going to be the one having to deal with it. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let's get some questions out there. Sari is asking if you make your textures, and I think we answered that a little bit. You do and are responsible. Gregory, do you mind stating your question again? And I'll be able to kind of push that forward. Okay, we got our timelines down and we go from there. Okay, Gregory's asking, do you study mechanics to improve secondary, tertiary shapes? Like, how'd you really develop your vocabulary for these forms?
When it comes to that, I got this really good. It's the one actually that I opened accidentally. It's called Prime Portal. It is a website with like, I think they have like almost all the vehicles you can imagine. So if you go to the main website, you can see you can add the ST, the battlefield, the army. So let's go to the battlefield. You can just say, oh, I want a armored vehicle soft skin, and then you just go almost all the vehicles you can think of.
Wow.
And if they're like super high-res pictures. I don't even know how to take them. Like from the, oh, come on. There's like, you see how long it takes to load. They're like massively big. So that's what I do. First of all, I gather a lot of reference. Sometimes for personal work, if I make like a jet, I'm working on a vehicle at the moment. Let's see if I have it. I would maybe spend like a week gathering reference, just to make sure that once I start modeling and I'm like, at a certain point, I don't find something cool. I'm like, ah, damn it, if I just would have found this sooner. If it comes to mechanics, I would just go on YouTube and see how stuff works. Like, for example, I was making a jet, and I was like, oh, I need to see how the wings work, or how everything connects with each other. And I want to show you this. What I do as well is, I think this is something it's not something I discovered, but something I started to use more and more often is, let's see. Way too much stuff in here. Let's see if I have it in recent, maybe. No. That's it. Let's see. Yeah. I would start animating it myself just to see if things work, basically. It just basically how you got slave and so it's basically connecting pieces up and saying which one has to follow which, just to see if things work. And it's something I'm starting to do at the office as well, just to see if it's going to work for the gigging department or the animation departments, just to make sure they don't get headaches. It's basically preventing problems before they arise. I mean, it's super easy to see, oh, this is going to clip, or this doesn't make sense, or whatever.
Oh yeah, of course.
Same for the landing gear. I think I have one. Let's see.
Are you doing simple parenting, or do you develop a rig at all, or?
No, it's parenting. That's it. It's not gigging. I don't have the patience for that. But it's basically like, oh, that was not animated. Let's see. Yeah, this could work. So yeah, if it comes to finding stuff out, I just go on YouTube and hope to find something about that functionality, how wings work, how landing gear folds up. Or basically, like last time I found a pilot who actually every week gives a podcast about airplanes, and he just takes questions and he just explains stuff, which is, I think it always helps just to understand the subject you're gonna model. I know, like when somebody plays a game, nobody cares about that stuff. Like they're just gonna shoot and not look at like the troopers, but you spend so much time on it. But in the game, most people just rush past it. So at the same time, don't go too deep in it. But it doesn't hurt to just see if things work just by animating and
Oh, nice.
yeah.
I love that.
So I want to find a file. I don't know where I saved it for you guys somewhere. Like I knew I wanted to show this, but let's see. Damn it. Do you guys have any questions in the meantime while I'm trying to find this?
Yeah, absolutely. Edison's asking about what the future of vehicle artists in the market. So, like Edison's a very skilled modeler. So, what kind of jobs are out there for vehicle artists, and is that something for somebody to kind of focus on?
Well, to be honest, I don't have the vehicle position at MachineGames. A lot of people think I'm the vehicle artist, but I do robots. I do complicated things. I think if you say vehicles, it just means you're good at hard surface. I would say.
Makes sense.
Basically know how to handle clean topology, complicated shapes. But I would say don't be afraid to be a vehicle artist. I just see somebody saying that on the chat. I'm afraid of being a vehicle artist, but don't be. That's a nice thing. One week I'm making vehicles. The other week I'm making a robot. Next week I'm making a gigantic elevator. I think giving yourself the title vehicles just limits your range of possibilities. So that's why I hope I can keep the title to the artist, because it says, well, it basically says everything and says nothing. It says I'm good at modeling, and that's it. I can model a robot. I can model.
There we go.
But I suck. Yeah, I mean, I suck at organic stuff, but that's me not being good at sculpting. But don't be afraid to be of vehicles, I would say. But don't just say, oh, I only want to make vehicles. Just say, I want to make hard surface things, or I want to do organic stuff. That's what I would say. I think that should be clear from the beginning. If you make a portfolio, like, are you going to be hard surface? It can be organic. Are you going to be cactus? I think that's way more important than being, I want to be the robot artist, I want to be the vehicle artist, I want to be the gun artist, if that makes any sense. Because at the end, hard surface is all the same principle, topology.
That's great. So what do they have to show in their portfolio to really communicate this? Because sometimes we hear from people, don't show topology, and then some people say show topology. What should we show if we want to just be a 3D artist and kind of tell people that we can do this, that we're badass at the modeling side?
At the same time, I get that. Like, some people say don't show topology, some say do. I like to see topology. It shows me that you at least know the basics, so you understand how things work.
For me, it's an easy way to see how somebody thinks about things. So
exactly. Yeah. What I did when I was a student, I would do paint. I would take a picture of a car and I would put it in Photoshop and I would draw lines over it just to see how the flow would work. And that's how I would know how the topology would be like. I would basically paint the topology on top of a picture, and then I would just see if it worked. At the same time, I get that a lot of people say we don't care about topology because it's game art. You can always, if it's a bit ugly in the bake, you can always just smudge it a bit or pinch it or whatever, the normal map. So I would say, I'm really like all my hyperlinks are really clean topology. I don't have any problem showing any of the models, and they will all have clean topology because I don't use booleans or I don't use edge shades and all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't think I need to show it. But if it comes to actually showing what you should show as a hard surface, I would say just show complicated shapes, basically. That's why I like cars so much, because every car has different shapes and one is more difficult than the other one. But that's at the same time, I think as a student, it's strange to say that maybe, but as a student or as a being starting out as an artist, I don't think you develop the sense of making complicated or interesting shapes yet. If that makes any sense. I knew when I was a student I would not come up with shapes like this. Like I just have one open. I would not have come up with these shapes, or even know how they would work or whatever. That's one thing. But as a student, I would just say try to find the real life hard surface shapes that you like, and that's why cars are such a good example. Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question a bit?
I think so. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and Matthias, thank you so much for taking the time out,
Yeah.
and for giving us all that insight into your process. It's I love your work, and it's just
no problem.
so much detail.
Thank you. And I must say, if any students want to contact me or have any questions, feel free to send me an email with questions or hit me on ArtStation, whatever. I'm always, maybe I'm not going to reply immediately, but I have no problem helping students out. So.
All right.
Because I think I was a student myself. So.
Yeah, and you had to, you basically self-taught. You went the.
Yeah, it's something. It's maybe strange to brag about that, but I'm pretty proud of the fact that I made it on my own, if that makes any sense. I don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for people who get a degree and go to school and stuff, but at the same time, I think learning something on your own really shows dedication. And that's why I want to see it when I see portfolios. I want to see people practice. I want to see people working their asses off. And I don't mind if they have maybe 60 pieces on the portfolio and 30 are shit. If I see progress and I see they're practicing and getting better and they ask for feedback and they listen to feedback, for me, that is way more important than having somebody that is maybe really good or like kick ass at something. Because I don't know, you can be really good, but getting stuck in your own work, that's something I'm a bit at the moment. I'm a bit stuck at the work I'm doing. I want to, just like students, I want to keep moving forward a bit. I want to learn stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's a great place to tie a bow in this. Thank you, man. So glad.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys. Have an amazing weekend. Matthias, thanks again so much. Talk to you guys there.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good time as well. Bye.
Bye.